Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of Tavora Talks for 2021. I am your host, Cash, joined as always by my co-host and partner in cybercrime, Matt Mosley. Matt, how you doing? Happy New Year. How's it going, man? Long time no talk.
Yeah, doing well. Happy New Year. Got 2021 kicked off. See if we can survive another year. Hopefully COVID will be gone
I know
soon.
COVID will hopefully be gone. I mean, we're still kind of all battling with it here and there, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully, kind of.
Yeah, hopefully. Let's keep this progress going. I just well, I don't want to talk about COVID anymore. We've talked plenty of COVID.
Yeah,
I'm sure everyone's heard
you
enough
guys
about
get the
COVID.
point. If you guys are out there and you don't know there's a thing called COVID, I don't know, just Google something.
Must be
It'll
nice. Must be nice.
But I guess let's kind of just go over what we want to talk about. So it's a new year. A lot of new things happened this year, from, politics, cybersecurity. COVID has a nice outlook in the future. But before we kind of jump into all the good stuff of this year, kind of wanted to do a fun little recap of all the craziness in the cyber world that happened last year. There was like a lot of different breaches, a lot of different ransomwares, malwares, hacks, patches. It was just a slew of everything, right? In the middle of COVID. And with that, I'll kind of pass it to you, get it set up. What are we going to talk about? Let's jump into it and kind of give us a little history of 2020 in the cyber world, man.
Yeah, so I put together this list somewhat based off of other people's lists, but I could not find a definitive top 10 hacks of 2020. So I'm going to go through each month and kind of just highlight the big ones from each month, and then we'll leave it amongst you guys to discuss what you thought was the biggest hacks. But definitely a trend going on here. So we'll start in January. One of the bigger ones was the IRS tax refunds. So more than a few U.S. residents were jailed for filing fraudulent tax returns and based on information they had stolen, right? So identity theft, resulting in somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 million. So
Woo!
I know every time I report on these things, I'm like, man, I'm on the wrong side, but I'm not. I'm on the right side, and I don't want to live looking over my shoulder.
That's crazy. 12 million, that's a lot. Now, that was like an attempt to file, or did actually, what was the 12 mil? Was that
Yeah, so they took people's information that they'd stolen, right? And then
Uh-huh.
they had just made up the tax return and then filed it so that they would get it, filed it in a way so that they would get a refund, right? And then the refund went to a direct deposit or a check or whatever to a certain mailbox or bank account that the fraudsters owned. And then when people went to file their tax returns, they found out that it was already filed on their behalf.
Oh
And
my
so,
God.
yeah, it was a huge mess. But yeah, someone out there, I'm sure, made a few million, and I'm sure they didn't catch everybody. So anyway, that's why. So one thing you can do for that is there's actually you can register to have a PIN set up for your account.
Yep,
And this I do every year. So, and I don't know if you have that, Cash.
I do. Mhm.
Yeah, perfect. And so when you file your taxes through e-file and even on your forms, you actually put that information in there and then send it securely on its way. So good thing there. Next up was Wawa. 30 million records containing customer details were made available online for sale. So for those that are not familiar with Wawa, Wawa is a huge chain of convenience stores throughout the Midwest and East Coast. Not so much on the West Coast, I don't believe, but I have not seen any on the West Coast.
What is it? They're like a gas pump kind of style.
Yeah, 7-Eleven.
Looking all right, got it.
Yeah, type business like that.
30
And
million? That's a
30
lot.
million. That's a lot of records.
That's a lot of records, man.
Yep. Microsoft also had a breach that month, and it was a tiny one, but it was 5 servers that were used to store anonymized user data, right? So the data didn't belong to anybody, supposedly, but it was supposed because it was exposed. Sorry, because it was open on the internet. Basically, it was a database somewhere that was not locked down, and you're going to see that trend throughout these stories here. That seems to be a repetitive thing. So yeah, and then that rolls us into February, where Estee Lauder, the makeup company, They
Okay,
had
wow.
440 million internal records
Wow.
exposed to some sort of a middleware security failure, is what they say. Now they're saying that it was all educational information, right? It was people inside the company that were doing some online, knowledge transfer or internal training information. But that's a lot of records, 440 million.
That's a lot. How much training can you possibly do? I don't know.
Right.
That's suspect.
Right. I wonder how many of those are duplicates because obviously they don't have 440 million employees. So,
No, that's
but
no way.
yeah,
That's
they claim it was
crazy.
all internal data. So no big deal. Swept
Their
that under the
legal team
rug.
spun that
Good
for
job,
sure
PR.
very well. Yeah, good job, PR and legal. 100%. Yeah, it's all
And,
good. It was just training material.
yeah, exactly. Denmark. Denmark's tax portal also was compromised, I guess I should say, accidentally exposed to an online database, and there was 1.2 million, or round up to 1.3 million citizens that had their information exposed online. So that makes it what, two in our list of exposed internet databases. So keep that count going.
And accidental, I don't know. How do you accidentally expose something that's more like that's a big oops. What do you
Yeah, I mean, we see it a lot though, like especially with AWS, Amazon Web Services. People set up these various services or S3 buckets or whatever, and there's so many things you can configure and configure wrong too.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't remember the
I can
exact
see
number,
that.
but I think I read somewhere where it was like there's 126 options you can configure wrong that wouldn't expose your data.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, I don't know the exact number, so don't quote me there, but there is quite a few. So I can see how that happens. I mean, we've seen it with a couple of our clients where they had exposed S3 buckets that we discovered during our pen testing and stuff like that. So
Indeed. Okay, understandable.
yeah, yeah. But yep. So January, February crossed off the list. We're moving on into March. March, this is one that we covered, was Marriott. So the hotel
Marriott.
chains, they suffered
Yes,
an
I remember
attack.
that.
Yep. With let's see, 5.2 million email accounts that were exfiltrated from hotel guests. So that was all customer data. Not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
I mean,
They
it
got a real good
it
email
hurts
list
their
though.
image, but as far as data goes, not a big deal. It's not like email addresses are private. So,
Who else?
uh,
Who else we got in March? March was actually a good, fun month, if I remember, as far as
yeah,
people getting hacked.
definitely,
Fun for
definitely.
the news. Sorry for whoever got hacked. I didn't mean that in a real mean way.
Yeah, I mean, so right now everyone's kind of switching to Signal. I think is the mobile app of choice for secret sharing. Prior to that was WhatsApp, and I think everyone's kind of realized the privacy issues there. But before all that, and this one I never used, but Whisper. Whisper was a mobile app that a lot of people used, and they actually had millions of user data profiles stolen and put online. And so you don't hear about Whisper anymore, as
No,
far as I know. So
they're faint. They're a whisper in the wind now.
yeah. Virgin Media had 900 users that were exposed through an open marketing database. So again, another open database. NutriBullet. You're familiar with that one, right? The
Yep.
kitchen appliance. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
So they were a victim of MageCart. So that's one that hasn't been around for a little bit, but or hasn't been in the news, I should say, very often. But MageCart, one of those things that happened a few years ago, that's still we're still feeling apparently. So they basically get in and they inject code into the website, and then anybody that comes to the website gets hit by malicious JavaScript usually. But there's been a few other techniques that have come out since then that they've used. But very sophisticated attack, in my opinion. A few years ago, Ticketmaster with their third-party vendor Inventa was hit by it, and Inventa was actually the one that was compromised, and Ticketmaster and others used the chat feature that Inventa had created, and then that attacked their customers. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, so MageCart definitely is a threat still out there. One of our good partners, Source Defense, if you've ever heard of them, they do a few talks on MageCart, and they have a good product for that. So, not to plug anything, just saying. Fill in some
Plug you if you guys want to
airspace
send us
here.
money.
What would you say?
I said we can plug people all day as long as they send their free stuff. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, for sure. April was pretty mild. I mean, there was a few hacks that month, but the notable one that I wanted to talk about was the United States Small Business Administration. This was one that we had previously covered, and basically they had 8,000 loan applicants with their PII, so personally identifiable information stolen. Um, you can find out loan information, social security information, all that good stuff. So not good for those individuals, but I'm sure the SBA is taking care of them in credit monitoring. I hope.
As they always do, right? Here's a free year. Whatever happens after that, that's not our problem.
Yeah, that's the one thing that, and I think you and I have
What?
talked about this before, is like
Yeah, it's like, what does that mean?
after a year, I mean, what are you going to do then? You basically have to pay for identity theft monitoring or insurance for the rest of your life, because it's not like your data changes. So,
Yeah. And it's like what the guys can just sleep on it and sell it in a year from now, right? So
exactly.
same thing, I guess, as what you said, but a different way.
Yeah.
But another one in April, I remember we talked about this a little bit. I kind of hit home just because like I love this company. I think we all do a little bit. Remember Nintendo? Nintendo got a little hit.
Who doesn't remember Nintendo?
Yeah. Gotta love Nintendo. They got hit. I'm sorry, Nintendo. They prevailed though. So that's always good to hear. But
Yep.
thought I remind you out there that
Yeah.
poor
160,000
Nintendo.
users. I think that was a like a password spraying attack, right? Something like that. Like it was basically leaked credentials from other breaches, and then they were just using it on Nintendo's system.
Yep.
I can't remember the details, but something along those lines.
Something along those lines. Yeah. I just remember Nintendo. Something happened.
And then in May, we had EasyJet, which was one that we
Ooh.
had covered.
Yep.
Basically, huge data breach there, belonging to 9 million customers.
That was
And
a big
some of
one.
that data, not only was the PII, but some of it was financial records. That has resulted in an $18 billion class action lawsuit. So,
That's
ooh,
crazy.
enjoy that. I don't know.
2,000 per impacted customer. That's what they're claiming, right? It's like the stimulus check paid out by EasyJet.
Yeah, crazy, dude. Um, so May had some other ones, but that was pretty much the highlight. I mean,
June.
there was some ransomware and some data leakage, but not a whole lot to report on there. June, we had Claire's, which I have not shopped there personally, but I'm very familiar with in all the malls of America. So are you familiar with Claire's Cash? It's like the
No, I don't think I've
trinkets
heard.
and earrings and stuff like that for girls and women,
No,
for
I have
ladies, I
not
should
shopped
say,
there.
and men, I guess, could be either way. But they fell prey to card skimming from MageCart. So another MageCart, pretty big MageCart attack. NASA also got hit that month. So NASA IT contractors networks were hit with Doppelpaymer ransomware.
Not a favorite.
That's one that we've done a few tabletops on, and we also reported on. So yep, ransomware definitely prominent. AWS mitigated a huge denial of service attack, 2.3 terabytes per second.
That was a lot, right?
Yeah,
I remember
huge.
that one. That was huge. And that one I remember they reported a little bit late. It kind of like swept it under the rug, and then eventually they came out with it, kind of situation.
Yep, correct. Yeah, I mean they mitigated it, right? I think there was some server, um, not outage, but definitely some lag on the network then. But yeah, they were able to successfully thwart that attack, so that's good.
Yeah, they're like,
And
what DDoS attack?
yeah, I mean they have enough servers, and I'm sure enough load balancers to shift that traffic wherever they needed to go. So I'm sure they were just fine.
Well,
I'd be
attack.
interested to know like where Cloudflare hosts all their stuff. I'm sure maybe they have their own data centers, but I wouldn't be surprised if they use some of AWS's network. So, and then one more in June was the University of California, San Francisco.
Yes.
Basically tried to pay, or they did pay 1.14 million ransom to hackers in order to save some COVID-19 research. So that was kind of, I mean, only 3 months into COVID-19. So
That's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of details they were saving. Hopefully for that money that some of that research was used in some of the vaccines that we're seeing coming out. But
I
I
mean, I
guess
feel like
we'll
for a
never know.
company to actually like decide to shell out money, they know that it's a coin toss, right? It's like putting money down on red on the roulette table. It's like you could get it, it could work, it could not. So for a university to shell out that kind of money, I'm pretty sure whatever it was important
Oh
enough to
yeah,
take
for
that
sure.
risk for sure.
And it is really a coin toss, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen, especially if the data's already been stolen. And I
Oh
don't
yeah.
remember who it was on this list, but um, someone paid the ransom. Or no, what it was is the data was stolen, and then people paid up to $100,000 for that data, like in the dark web, and then the data was just made available readily for free. so, so that actually came back on the hackers, I guess. Someone paid for that stolen data, and then it was just free later on. But anyways, but it is a coin toss. I mean, we don't hear very many where people pay and they don't get the decryption keys, but it has happened. So it's
For
definitely
sure.
one of those rolling the dice type of moments. But I guess if you have money, you can do that. I don't have 1.4 million, although if you would like to sponsor this podcast, you can help me on that on that path.
We should start a GoFundMe, man. Just like donate to us. That's cool.
And then all that money is just going to go right into GameStop stock.
Yeah, for sure. That's funny. Or silver nowadays, but I
Yeah,
guess
or
we'll wait for that
silver from what
conversation.
I've heard. Yeah.
But what a
What is
random
going on there? I don't want to get on a side topic, but like, what is that misinformation going on?
silver. Listen, ladies and gentlemen out there, there's metal. It's called silver. There's supply and demand. No one really cares for silver. That's why no one wanted it, right? Do you still want silver? I don't. It's like gold. Gold is always the gold for the win. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but it just seems like a misinformation
Yeah,
campaign going
for
on.
sure. That's what's happening. I heard they're about to make a movie on the GameStop thing though. MGM.
Really?
Yeah, they're gonna make a GameStop Wall Street movie.
Oh,
Apparently,
nice.
kind of
There's
like Wall Street
a
style.
good book. So side topic here. We'll get back to July in a
We'll
minute
try to
here.
get back. Me
Yeah,
and
we'll
Matt
get back to
usually.
July here in just a minute. You hold your horses, July. Um, so it's called Flash Boys, I think was the name of the book, and it would be an interesting hacker history talk we could probably do. But what it was is a bunch of investors figured out a way to get ahead of trades by like I can't remember the details, but I think it was like 0.03 seconds. And what they did was they they found a data center as close as possible to the New York Stock Exchange,
Okay,
and they put their computer there, and then that was their way of getting in ahead of their competition. There was a lot more detail to that. I'm just summarizing it, but
that's
it was
cool.
very interesting to read and find out. And I think there was even some bribing that went on to move competition servers behind theirs to
That's
lower
crazy.
down, push them down the line on the connection. So, but yeah, pretty interesting. All right,
Well, bring it
July. We'll
back. Bring
get
it
to you
back to
now.
July. Yeah, bring it back to July.
Um, so,
We should just do one episode where we just talk about gibberish. We'll do that one day.
yeah, we could.
No security,
All
anything.
three fans will love that.
We love you guys.
um,
But back to July, seriously. Go for
yeah. So BlueLeaks was probably one of the bigger things that happened in July. So
it. Refresh me on BlueLeaks. I forgot.
BlueLeaks was 269 gigabytes of stolen files belonging to various United States police departments and put online. Now, you'll remember during this time in America, and still going on, but very heavily in June, July, August, um, I think was the BLM protests, right? The Black Lives Matter.
I feel like it.
When was
I
the
feel like that
George
was a
Floyd?
sensitive time.
Seems like it was like around that time. So I think that was as a result of it. Yeah. So George Floyd was May 31st
Yeah, here recent BLM
or May
protest
20,
on June
25th.
6th. Yep.
Yeah. And so BlueLeaks was basically a direct result of all of that hacking or sorry, all that protesting. And, but yeah, huge had lots of data that was out there, basically disclosed, where officers lived and all kinds of important information to those officers and dangerous information for anybody that wanted to be an idiot and go after law enforcement.
Yeah, here I'm reading it too. It says the files included scanned documents, videos, emails, audio files, training materials, private law enforcement alerts. That's a lot of sensitive data, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Where it is, how can we look at us stuff up?
I don't know, but probably a few places online have it.
If you're listening to this, send us a link and you know where it is.
Sig Red was another pretty big thing in July. So that was a undiscovered 17-year-old exploit that was basically attacking Microsoft Windows servers. So it was a DNS exploit that allowed attackers to, I think, take over remote or basically do remote code execution on the servers that had the DNS server role implemented. And 17 years old, this attack existed, and it was wormable too. So it could, once it was in the environment, it could find other Microsoft servers that use DNS. And
That's crazy. 17 years. I don't know. Do you think it went under the radar, or did somebody know how to exploit it? They just didn't speak up.
Probably the latter.
Yeah, right. I'm sure.
It's probably the latter. I mean, I don't know what our government knows, but I'm sure they've got a few 0 days that have yet to be disclosed. We all know that from Stuxnet and other attacks that we're aware of. Speaking of Stuxnet, that's going to be coming up in our hacker history.
Can't wait.
Put it on the schedule today.
I like that.
So moving on into August, we had Carnival, the cruise line. They disclosed that they were hit by ransomware and a subsequent data breach. And who else did we have in August?
Cisco.
Was it
Cisco?
Oh yeah, Cisco was interesting. So that was a former engineer pled guilty to causing a huge amount of damage to the Cisco networks, which supposedly cost the company $2.4 million to fix.
Whew.
Yeah, so
that's like, I think Cisco like throwing $1 out of their wallet really quick to patch something though.
Yeah, but talk about disgruntled employee, dude.
Yeah, for sure. That's for sure. Somebody should have given that guy a bonus.
Yeah. Canon, the photography giant, the maker of all things cameras and printers and all that good stuff, they were hit by ransomware. LG, Xerox also hit by ransomware, all from the same gang, the Maze Group. So big month for ransomware in August. So we had Canon, LG, Xerox, and Carnival all hit by ransomware that month. And September, the Clark County School District also hit by ransomware.
Where is Clark County?
So Clark County was the huge county in Nevada. I think it's Las Vegas, and accounts for most of the votes found in the most recent election. So a lot of people heard about Clark County on the news if you were in the United States and watching on election night.
So I promise I'm in the United States and I was watching, but I did not pay attention to Clark County.
But probably the biggest story out of September, and we also covered this, not the first death as a result of a hacking event, but definitely one of the few rare occasions where a German hospital was attacked by ransomware. And due to that, the patient who was on his way there, or was it a woman? I can't remember. Anyway, the patient was on the way to the hospital, and they said they couldn't take him because they were dealing with this ransomware event. So they had to redirect the ambulance to another hospital that was further away. And on the way to the hospital, that person passed away.
That's terrible.
Yeah. And so it is related to definitely a hacking event, and unfortunate. So, and then moving on into October, here's a few we covered. Barnes and Noble.
Yep.
They were hit by a ransomware, and their records were stolen and leaked online. Boom Mobile, which is a huge telecom service provider, not here in the United States, but overseas. They were hit by MageCart, so another MageCart in the news, and
Google's DDoS attack.
yep, Google was even
Hmm.
bigger than Amazon, or right on par with it. They had 2.54 terabytes per second, and what was Amazon's? 2.3.
2.3.
So yeah, so even bigger. And they were able to successfully mitigate that one. And Dickies, which we had covered
Yeah,
also.
I remember that. Poor Dickies. Why,
So
why
Dickies
Dickies?
Barbecue is a restaurant chain here in the United States, and they had a point of sale attack where 3 million customers had their card details stolen and posted online.
That's crazy.
Yep. And November we've got Capcom. Speaking of Nintendo, so Capcom, makers of Street Fighter, Mega Man, all that good stuff. They were the victim of ransomware as well from the Ragnar Locker ransomware family. So another example of ransomware. Um, Campari is the name. I'm not sure. They're an Italian beverage company. I think they make soda or something. Anyway, they were hit with ransomware. So you can definitely see a theme going on here.
Mm.
And then December, which brings us almost to current date, we had a few big things happen. I mean, kind of minor, right? Overall.
In the beginning, but then at the end, right before we were getting ready to enjoy our holiday, bomb dropped. Well, I'll let you set that up.
Yeah. So we'll get there, but we'll start with Vancouver TransLink. So Vancouver is the metro system there, and they got hit by ransomware. Then that brought us into FireEye, which we thought was the biggest story of December. So FireEye, major security vendor, and also provides services after they acquired Mandiant. Everyone knows FireEye, pretty well known in our industry, and they disclosed that they had been hacked. And as the result of that hack, they decided to publish a bunch of IOCs for their various pen testing tools to make sure that others couldn't be hacked. And we actually applauded that. We thought it was pretty cool that they disclosed that information. They gave everyone the heads up. They said, "Hey, we think we've been hacked. This is the information that's obviously out there, and do with it what you will." Right.
Mm.
And then we find out later on, a week later, that the FireEye hack was actually the result of a SolarWinds Orion hack.
But
So the company, so yeah, dun dun dun,
dun,
plot thickens. SolarWinds, who makes a product called Orion, was the victim of a supply chain hack in which their software had been manipulated uh, and undiscovered, right? So it was manipulated, it had Trojans put into it. And then basically what happened was it had sat there kind of dormant for a little while until the latest update rolled out. And then all the clients, who had updated on a certain date, received that Trojan. And FireEye was one of those victims. And we're still learning more about that hack. And we're going to talk about that in our next podcast. We're going to kind of dive a little bit deep and kind of try and uh, take all the information we know up to this point and put it in one podcast because we could easily spend 30 minutes talking about that.
oh yeah, at least.
But yeah, so the SolarWinds hack, and Cash can attest that we did not get the great holiday break that we thought we were going to get. We were busy triaging multiple clients that had been hit by that, and still working on it to this day. But that is partly to blame for the lack of podcasts in January, was the fact that our team was so busy doing other stuff that we didn't have time to jump on here. Even today, we don't have time, but we made time just for you. For our 3 fans out there, we made time.
Yes, we're working diligently to make sure the world is a safer place. That's why.
But it's so funny if you look online, like if you were to do a quick Google search of like, say, top 10 hacks of 2020, nowhere is SolarWinds on there, right? Because it came out so close to the end of the year that everyone had already gone home for the weekend.
Yeah, everybody's like,
Basically, they'd gone home for the
here's my
holidays.
report. I'm out.
Yeah. And so anyway, that's why I kind of wanted to wait a month. I know it's the end of January, beginning of February, but I wanted to wait and see what kind of if anything else shook loose from the tree of of news in that section. But now I think we've got a pretty good list and a good recap of 2020. So
And
how you
we'll
like them
definitely dive
apples?
deep into that for sure. But one thing I want to say, 2020, like you said, you guys can hear it. Trends, ransomware, it's been there, it doesn't die. A lot of companies got popped for it, right? So that sucks. Sorry, guys.
Yep.
Protect your stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Next gen AV, right? Put that on every
To the
endpoint you've
win.
got
Yeah,
so you
everything.
can detect early warning signs of ransomware, right? Because it's going to detect that behavior. It may not detect that signature of that malware, but it'll
Right.
definitely detect things getting encrypted. Backups, backups, right? Like make sure you've got on-site backups, make sure you got off-site backups, 30 days readily available or even more, depending on which compliance framework you have to adhere to. Right. So those are the two biggest things for ransomware. Um, and then the other thing was the exposed databases, right? That was a huge trend.
Yeah.
Dude, regular pen testing, regular scanning of your external networks, um, a CMDB, right? Knowing what assets you've got out there. That's a huge one, right? This shadow IT stuff that goes on, even at the big companies that I've worked at, there's always these groups of people that are just spinning up servers online, especially with AWS as easy as it is, that are spinning up these um, servers and then basically allowing an entry point for an attacker to get into the company. And even if it's dumb data, I mean, and by dumb data, I mean just data that's not useless. It's a huge hit to the company's image if they get hacked, right? It doesn't matter what data was in there. All the news is going to say is that so and so was hacked. And so, definitely audit that stuff, put in policies in the company that say, if you want to do an AWS instance, you need to get approval through change management or something, some sort of control, so that you guys can start tightening down your networks. And then lastly, SolarWinds, it's a supply chain hack. It's not, and MageCart even could be considered a supply chain with the third party vendors that getting hacked. Those type of attacks, those are the things that you need to audit on a regular basis. I understand that you can't look at source code, normally. Um, MageCart, you can look at source code, but like for SolarWinds, you can't. But in that case, the things you can do is really tighten down those application servers,
Hmm.
right? Make sure your firewall rules are not communicating outside your network, or if they are, that they're only communicating with whitelisted IPs and ports. Um, it, I guess just scrutinizing and locking down and being more strict is the best strategy for kind of dealing with a SolarWinds type of hack. Before we got on the podcast, Cash, you and I were talking about some of the things that I've done in the past for web app security,
Yeah.
and some of those things apply here, right? If we see any malicious activity, block it. Right? If I'm running a web server and you're trying to access resources that don't belong to you, or I didn't serve you up,
Block it.
you're up to no good.
Yeah.
Block it. Block
Like,
the
what did you
IP.
say? You said if I see like somebody typing in a username that doesn't exist.
Yeah, if you try a username that doesn't exist, you're blocked. Like I don't care if you're a legitimate user, you should know your username,
Yeah, at the
right? You
very
shouldn't be
minimum.
trying random stuff. Block
That's
them,
for sure.
right? And put those bans in for a long time. Don't just do 5-10 minutes. Do friggin' 72 hours. Like that prevents those password spraying and brute forcing attacks. So yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot that can be done. And I think we just need to take a more aggressive approach on these things. And, just from incident response point of view, like I'd love to crank down the gears on things. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of noise, but you can also work to filter that noise and make exclusions and, whitelist certain things that, are benign. But man, like we need to stop being lazy.
Yeah. I mean, that noise that you talk about, it's going to be noisy in the beginning, especially if your environment's been going like it has been for years and you haven't tried to even start cleaning it. Yeah, right. You jump some sensors on everything, a million alarms are going to go off. But once you can kind of get the rules in place, sort it out, it'll take time. But then eventually, it's kind of smooth sailing in a way, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's care and feeding. And if you say you don't have time, well, then figure out a way to make time. Like, If you're buying
Shameless
a new
plug.
solution and you're implementing it, bake in extra time to go through and clear out those noise, right? Like make sure add another week or two onto the project so that you can go through and filter out that stuff. And I would say even more than that, I would do, a month or two of just listening to the environment and seeing what's normal, what's not normal. So, and maybe
And
companies do that, but I definitely don't see it very often. So
and for those companies out there, if you don't have time, we understand. So you can call Tavor's incident response team, and we will
no, we're
gladly
not
be
plugging
here.
anything, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely resources available. You can call any consulting company in the world and they'll help you implement stuff. So,
But what better consulting team than Matt and Cash and crew? Um, but yeah, so 2020 was a crazy year. Thanks for giving us the rundown, man. I totally forgot. That was a crazy year. It really was. And we're going to be bringing more new hotness to you. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about SolarWind on our episode later this week. We will drop it. We will let you guys know. Please give us your feedback. Let us know about any interesting topics or anything that you guys want us to talk about. We're going to be doing a lot of our hacker history that Matt loves to do. Be on the lookout. Stay tuned for that. And with that said, yeah, we're going to keep our ears to the streets, bring you guys all the good hacker related news. And as always, patch your stuff. But if you
yeah.
don't, I'm okay with it because it keeps us employed.
And what do the cool kids say? Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. So with that said, any final words,
That's
Mr.
it.
Mosley?
Just like me, please.
With that said, stay tuned. SolarWinds, we're going to go in depth in a couple days. With that, thanks for listening in, and I guess catch you on the flip side.
Hasta luego.